Hello,
Hi,
Lucky.
Susan. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Excellent.
Are you at the conference this week?
I am not. I am not attending in person.
Is there a virtual option?
Yes, there is.
Great. I'll look forward to the recordings. I saw they will be
absolutely.
posting them up on YouTube. Yeah, there's a few people out on the core team today, so I'm not sure who will be turning up.
Okay.
That both David and Sajay we're definitely going to miss this, but I didn't know who else on the team was at KubeCon.
Yeah, I think David would be at KubeCon. Akash is off today. I just ran into Eric, but he's in a conversation, so I'm not sure what's his status. So I see we have Kara, Matt, and would that be No? Please correct me if I didn't pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, I'm Noel.
Oh, hi, No. Glad I got that right. Are you in Kara's team or?
My team is going to be working with Kara's team out of CSE, and so we're some of the new devs. We're still learning about Ratify, but I've been involved with some of the folks around here before. Hi, Lucky.
No, great to have you here.
Hello, hello.
Okay, I think we can get started. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so I've listed all our pending PRs, and does anyone have any presentation discussion items today?
Just have discussion on my PR that's open. So, because I made some changes based on the comments, but I see it was renamed to better fit the actual PR, so we can discuss that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I saw Akash leaving a comment on the PR, but unfortunately he's not available today. So maybe we'll have to do the asynchronously on the PR.
Okay.
But we'll have the recording. If we do have a discussion, he'll be able to watch the recording.
Perfect.
Yep. So yeah, we can go through the list of PRs first. Let me just pull up the GitHub repository. Starting from the bottom, so I've cleaned up the Ratify store and CRDs. So please take a look. I have tried to include the high-level changes and what changes does each directory contain. So if you have any question, just ping me and I will be able to answer any question you have. Yeah, so it contains quite a bit of changes, but half of these changes are auto-generated by the Kube Builder SDK. So really appreciate your review here. Yeah, so I have tagged Eric and Bin to help with the review. And Kara, I was trying to add you, but I couldn't find you. Do you know why? Like would I be able to request a review from this dropdown? Should I be able to find you?
I don't actually know. I don't know what populates that dropdown.
Can you find my name, M. Luker, because it looks like Akash added me and mine is in that ticket and it worked. I got an email. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay. So do you have to be explicitly added to maybe the DA's lab, like organization? Is that
I think that's
what you
how it
believe?
works. Yeah,
Okay.
that list usually only has the folks in the org for the repo you're looking at.
I see. And Lucky, do you have permission to add Kara and Noel?
Yes, I believe so. Is this for specific reviews you were asking for? Did you want the reviews to be assigned to them?
Yes. So sometimes when we sometimes with the issues we assign to individuals to
Mhm.
track the project better. And last time I was trying to assign something to Kara because she does not exist in the organization. I was unable to do that.
Mm,
So I guess everyone needs to be explicitly invited to the organization to participate. Is that true?
yes, that is true.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess
Yeah, I can
when
have
we
a look at the permissions for this specific repo, but I think the only people that will, I don't know if there's a concept of maintainers. It's
I see.
probably that's granted permissions to get approvals. I'll have to take a look at the root of this organization as well, because sometimes there is a code owners file and it will key off that code owners file for reviews.
From what I can tell, there's
Specifically.
no code owner's file.
Okay. Yeah, then it would probably fall back to folks that have right access to this repository, I would expect.
Oh, I see. Okay. So maybe the management strategy is like we'll just keep the items assigned to the core group, and then we'll just do conversations on the item to loop in other folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. The next one up is we have received a few pull requests from a contributor from like a different organization, but they have been stale for about 7 days. And I want to know, typically, are we allowed to commit changes to other people's branch? Lucky, is there a typical guideline that we follow on, like, if this PR has been sitting around for whatever number of days, like we can help out a little bit here?
Yeah, so I think the answer is yes, because when you raise a PR from a fork, you explicitly opt in to say, can the maintainers of the upstream repository actually push changes back down into your branch, your source branch? And if they allow that, then you're okay to do that. And you would get whoever pushes that down would be a co-author on the set of commits that are coming up. So you can opt out of that behavior. I think the default is that you allow folks to push back down. But if it's something like very structural, I guess use your own discretion. If it's something like somebody's authored a large block of code and you've asked them to change it and they haven't had a chance to, but if it's something kind of small, it's probably okay to push down. If it's something like, I'm not sure if you're saying don't bump the chart version, that might be something specifically that's not a big deal, that if you push that back down, I don't think anybody would take offense to that. But if you ask somebody to change some logic in a method or function, maybe, not writing the code for them is helpful. So I don't have a definitive answer, but it's use your discretion. But you kind of opt into that behavior if you're a maintainer when you're raising the PR. There's a little checkbox that says allow commits. The only behavior that I have seen that's a gotcha, and I don't think it's an issue for this one, is DCO through the UI doesn't work without a plugin, which is, the signed off message. So sometimes if you have a DCO, like a developer certificate of origin, that'll break if you have like a status check on that. But so what is it specifically? Can I answer for this case? Is it this dangling chart version bump?
Oh, yes. intention of the goal of the PR is to add just a values property. So it's a pretty simple change. And I think I've just left a pending message that this version can just be left as is, like he doesn't have to bump up the version. And he reacted to the message, but didn't push an update. But I think in this case, I would be able to just bump it down and then get this merged, because the longer it's gonna
Yeah.
sit in this state, the more merge conflicts we're gonna have. And like there's just repeated update branch needed to take the PR.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So now it's being
I think
7 days.
that's okay. The only intended consequence of this is if somebody pulls the updated chart from the repo and they already have it installed, it's not going to recognize that there's a difference and add this if you were to do an upgrade, which I don't know if that's an issue, Susan. That may not be. If you don't think it's an issue, then fine. But this looks like it adds some pull secrets to this, to the deployment. If you need to pull Ratify, I guess, from another source. So if you built and have that in a repository that you need pull secrets for, because it's specifically for the Ratify deployment, right? So I'm guessing somebody's building the code, pushing to their own private repo, and then just saying, hey, use these credentials to grab this, modified version if it's present. It looks like it's wrapped in an if. If you have it present, use these things. I think that's pretty benign, even if you don't bump the version, because it's only going to invoke, it's a conditional block that's only going to be invoked if you define pull secrets. So all this to say, I'd say go ahead and push it back down. I don't think that it's going to cause a major issue. That's just my opinion there. Susan,
Yeah.
I don't
Thanks
know
for
if
the
anybody
input.
else has any.
So we have the tag here that determines which version of the image to pull, right? So what is this chart version? Like, is it just for like a symbolic version? Like, does it actually have a use?
Yeah, so it's basically what are the structured, what is the structure of the chart bits, the template, the values and everything else. And if you were to insert, non-compatible backwards changes, you might want to simver it appropriately.
Okay.
But many chart authors just say, look, we're just using v1.0 and we variabilize in the values the version of Ratify or the version of the binary you want to install, and therefore the chart doesn't change. Other people keep them in lockstep. It's really a chart author thing. But what structurally is changing here is you're adding the ability to define pull secrets to the chart, which you could say is a minor change if you're following Simver. It doesn't look like it's breaking because it's conditional. Only if they're defined, I don't think it'll break going backwards or forwards. But what you would do is if you published a new chart version and then you did a Helm upgrade, it would actually say, hey, you're on chart version 1.0.0. I'm going to upgrade you to 1.0.1 of the chart in Helm's internal logic. So it's always trying to look for the latest version of the chart. And it's basically got last time I looked at the code, it's got a Simver library in there that says, what is the latest? Oh, I'll pull that one and use it. So if you keep it as 1.0.0 and somebody already has it installed, that this isn't going to pick up that change if they ran a Helm upgrade. If they ran a brand new Helm install, doesn't matter. Does anybody else have that? I may be wrong.
Yeah, that's correct. And I was going to wait till the end for parking lot, but this seems like a good time to just bring it up. So we have currently published a Ratify 1.1.0 in the chart repository. So it's not in the source repo anymore. I'll link to the commit, but we published a 1.1.0 and then downgraded it to 1.0.alpha 1 or whatever we're on. And so I was going through the quick start earlier today, just to get up to speed on Ratify. And so what happens is that Helm with that internal Simver library will pull 1.1.0, which includes the signing cert, which is now out of date and old, and our sample images are signed with a different certificate route. So we have some additional maintenance items to either unpublish 1.1.0 or publish 1.1.1 or like somehow resolve this problem. But it's kind of related to this specific PR, and that whatever we decide for that one would also need to be applied to this one so that we can kind of roll forward and get everything back to a working state. Anyway, that's part of the reason that I'm here, is I wanted to come learn about the project, and as I was doing that, I ran into this bug. And so I've linked the commit that downgraded it from 1.1 to 1.0. And I'm not sure how the project wants to approach that. Unpublishing versions is usually frowned upon, but we should have a discussion there.
No, are you on the latest release?
I am on the latest of the repo. I'm just going through the README for the quick start.
I see. I believe we just released a new version last Friday. And I believe this release contains a change to bump the notary version from like 08 to a more updated version, which then we have changed, like re-signed all our test images because of the notation upgrade. So are you saying you're having issues with the late? Oh, sorry, let me look at the
actually,
get started again.
This is actually a good screen to look at.
Okay.
If you go back to the tags, because this kind of succinctly shows kind of what the problem is with Helm anyway. So the latest release is v1.0.0 alpha 3. So normally that's all great, but if you look 2 releases down, there's a higher Semver release that's already been published and out there. Helm picks that one up and will deploy the things which has the bad cert in it. So we either need to unpublish that or publish a 1.1.alpha 4 or alpha. I guess it could be alpha 2, but something has to be done. Right now in practice, you'll get the old bits from July 27th, even though what you actually want is the stuff that got published 5 days ago, because it's not truly latest.
Got it. Yeah, I'm just having a quick look at if there's just a quick like delete release option, but we'll have to talk to David about this. I'm trying to recall, like, why did we come down from 1.1 to 1.0? But I think it's because like it wasn't a major upgrade and we decided to continue with the alpha series. But yeah, like, is your preference to unrelease this?
I truly don't have a preference, only that whatever that our Semver latest is kind of actual latest and not not behind an old release is kind of the root problem. So yeah.
Got it. So you're currently blocked on this?
Now, well, I'm not personally blocked. Like I know how to go in and tweak the flags and work around this, and I figured it out. So like I'm not blocked, but like any user for the Ratify repo right now, if they were to walk through the steps, they would get to the step where you deploy KubeCut will run the demo image that's been signed, and that will actually be rejected by Gatekeeper because it's signed with the old, notary.8 image instead of, or cert instead of the new one.
Yep. I'll take a note on this and we'll get this resolved probably today. So I'll take a note and I'll ping David just to see if it's the right thing to do to unrelease this. I don't think anyone is dependent on v1.1.0. Lucky, do you have any suggestions on this?
No, I was just doing some forensics in the background and looking between what was in v1.0.0 alpha 1 and v1.1.0 alpha 1. And you're going to have to ask David. I'm not quite sure why that was there, but as Noel said, it does create just a bit of confusion. And if it's not a minor release, because I think this is like minor to patch. If it's just going back to a patch, I think we should probably clean up 1.1.0 until we do indeed get to a minor bump. I just didn't know if there were 2 different working branches, but it doesn't look like that's the case.
Yeah, I also don't think that's the case, but I'll check with David and know what's your preference on communication. Do you want me to like update the meeting notes to kind of update what's the resolution?
Meeting notes is great. That way anybody in the community could follow along as well.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll do that. Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. Yeah,
if there's any way I can help or help validate, or I can't click the buttons, but if there's any code that needs to be written, by all means, feel free to send that to me and I'll pick it up.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's also a gap in our end-to-end validation. Like we always build from local. So these sort of things we just missed. So I think add ability to work with custom cert. Eric put in a suggestion before, so we're just waiting for the contributor to respond. And I'll be able to take care of the Dependabot updates. And next up is Matt's PR. So I know Akash left a comment about MTLS.
Yeah, so originally this work item, I think it actually had that in the title. It did say MTLS. Looks like it's been updated, I think, just to match with like the work that was done. But I do have locally, I can push it. I just wanted to wait till this meeting to make sure we wanted to do that. But I have all the code in there to support MTLS as well. So I can just push that after if we want.
Oh, okay, cool. Do you know what Akash means by the one-way TLS?
Yeah, so basically this implemented from Gatekeeper to certs running on Ratify, not from Ratify trusting mutual back to Gatekeeper. So the introduced MTLS basically just has the volume out for Gatekeeper CA certs, and then Ratify can get access to those if it needs them. The only difference is in the deploy, just either mounting those volumes to Gatekeeper to the secret that it exposes, which is what the change does if you want it to. You can configure it like if you want to use that or not. And then having Ratify installed in the Gatekeeper system namespace for that to work. But you can do it in either scenario via the way it's set up. So I can push that out if we're comfortable. I can update my PR.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's great.
Okay. I'll do that right after the call.
Yeah, and I think Akash would be back tomorrow to take a look at this as well.
Perfect.
And next we have the GCPR definitions, Kara.
Yes.
Yeah. I took a quick look. It looks very clean and to me, but I'm not I don't have any previous experience with GPCR. GRPC, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's
GRPC, yeah.
Is it just like I know it's from some Google open source project. Is it RPC just with the G in the front?
yes.
And does that stand for Google or no?
Generic.
Generic. Got it.
Generic. It's just a way to structure your RPC schemas in code and have SDKs and clients generated from that code definition. So it's just a lot more portable than as a developer than something like REST, where you basically have to redefine all your structs in every piece of code. You basically say, here's my schema generated in the code and deal with it. And something that's very strongly typed, such as Go, really benefits from things like gRPC, because you can just pass around these protobuf definitions and import them into your code and then just blow them out into the structs and serialize it into memory while you're using it. So that, sorry, that's kind of the elevator pitch. If I had one floor in an elevator to give you that, it's just more of a programmatic way to do it using strongly typed code. And it has a lot more benefits on the wire. So it's actually designed to be a lot more lightweight than HTTP, which repeats a lot of the same information and hence has a lot of overhead over time. So it's gives the developer a very easy way to define the wire protocol, as it were, to pass information between applications over the wire using RPC. So it's generic, and it just comes with a way to define protobufs so that people who want to use Ratify as a library, or they want to interact with an endpoint on Ratify, it's very easy for them to generate the structs and talk to Ratify directly.
Cool.
Don't know. So sorry, Kara. I hope I didn't speak over you there.
Oh, no. You covered most of it. I was just going to clarify that we defined the models or the messages and service definitions, so those endpoints, but only for what would be required for the plugins, the 2 plugin types, and then for that orchestration layer that is going to allow verifiers to basically call stores, but without directly calling stores, since that will need to be now in the middle, especially if they're both running as microservices rather than, or one is binary and the other isn't. That just allows that relationship. We're obviously going to do further work to actually use the generated code next go around, but we definitely wanted to get this out first. I'm trying to think if there was any. Oh yeah, as Laki was talking, I was just thinking if you ever did SOAP or WCF work, this is like better polyglot, like you can version of that. So coming from the .NET world, that was my like, oh, this is so much better. But anyways, if you have any more questions about that, let me know, and obviously discussions, but yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
think that
definitely
covers it.
looks like super compact and clean. I just had a quick question on the property. I think there's a property called matches configuration. I see this
Oh.
property in all the definitions. What's the
So
responsibility?
So the intent, I intended to add some comments to this. I apologize, but the intent was to because we want, or our thoughts are that verifiers should not necessarily be making decisions. Well, it's twofold. First, the use of the is successful or is success bit as it currently stands gets a little confusing because it could be false if like the verification action failed or if an exception or error occurred. And so we wanted to try to delineate between, did this fail because, for instance, if we were talking about the notation, like, did it fail because it's the cert, it was signed by an untrusted cert, or did it fail because there was some,
Got it.
right?
Like invalid versus error.
Yes, that's better. That's a better phrasing. But the intent was that would be the invalid or is valid flag rather, so that we could kind of decouple those apart. But if you could add comments if you have a preferred naming scheme, please. But that was the intent, was to be able to have that without, but still having it more narrowly targeted towards the valid invalid rather than just is success, because is success again could be, did an error occur or not.
Got it. And did you mention if the notary verifier run into an error, its success would still be true?
No, is success would be false if it ran into an error, but it would also be false if it was
Invalid signature.
invalid, right? And that was what we were trying to move away from, so that there could be added clarity both for like testing purposes. But if you have something that's trying to, for instance, make calls to an external data source and that external data source is down, maybe you want to be able to say, okay, don't call this plugin, or like, don't retry it, or do retry it. Like you could kind of have more control over that. Whereas having a universal single is success, you could either keep attempting to try it even when you shouldn't, or whatever. Going off on a tangent, sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful to have this additional property.
But yeah, again, we can add comments actually, so that to the proto files, so that when you generate the code, they actually add those comment attributes to the generated code. Is that something you would like as well? Because that would probably be beneficial. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Could you, just so that I remember, add a comment to the PR so that
Yep.
we can make perfect? Thank you.
done. And hi Sajay. I see that this PR currently doesn't have a reviewer.
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
able to assign a reviewer. That's how like I knew there was no code owner's file because it also didn't auto assign. So I don't know how you usually would handle that or who you would want on point. I figured that probably all three, you, Akash, and Eric would be beneficial, at least for this go around.
Yeah, I will tag them.
Okay, thank you.
Gosh. Did I spell that correctly? Yes. Yeah, we should be able to get to this this week. Okay, I think that's all our PRs. And do we have any other agenda to cover today? Help, sorry, is that on the agenda? Help with Ratify on
Yeah.
AWS.
Yeah, I was just walking through this document, and I got stuck with one specific issue that I'm not quite sure how to resolve. If you go on down, I'll tell you where. Thanks for opening up the doc. Go on down to the deploy Ratify step. Yes. Okay. In the second block, no formatted block here, it says, hey, grab the cosine public key and set that as a variable in shell, and then run the install. Now, when I run the install, that the value of cosine $cosine public key is a multi-line value with spaces in it. Does Noel already know the answer to this? Anyway, if I go and extrapolate, go and try and format and mess around with this, I still get to the point where Ratify is coming up and saying this is not a valid certificate. So I'm wondering if anybody else has hit that, and if this, should I be looking at this documentation, or is there some other update I should be pushing?
Yeah, our docs are a little out of date. We have some backlog items to clean them up at some point. I haven't run into this myself, but I'm wondering if we look at how the Ratify test cert gets populated today, if we could work around the cosine problem. So in our chart values, this is how we define the Ratify test cert.
Mm-hmm.
And would you be able to use the same mechanism to populate the cosine key right here?
I probably could, yeah.
So once you'll have to update the values file locally and install
Yeah.
Ratify from the local chart.
Okay. I'm just
fix the docs.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Should we fix the docs for this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to fix the docs. The interesting thing is the value is called cosine.key, right? The one above that you showed, Sarah, is actually a certificate. This is a public key that I'm putting into there. And the error, I haven't actually raised an issue for this, but I can right now. But it says, I'll just put it in chat. It says it's a malformed certificate, but I don't know if that's just a generic error. So that's the actual pod logs that I put in the chat. The pod comes up and says, I don't know what that thing is. It says it's not a certificate. I'm not sure if it's expecting a certificate or a key, because what I'm putting in there is a key, not a certificate.
I see. Let me take a quick look at how are we mounting this.
Yeah.
Sajid, do you think this, instead of key, should it say certificate? Shouldn't this be the certificate used for validation?
Yes, I think for cosine that should be the thing. But the problem is that now that cosine is released to GA, should we just update it to use whatever new format? Because I don't know what all changes potentially has happened inside the cosine Sigstore plugin.
Mm.
So as a part of fixing that, we could potentially fix the docs to have the local key scenario set up.
Which reminded me, it's a known issue that our ECR cosine workflow is broken. We have a GitHub issue tracking that.
Okay, cool. So then
We broke it when we did some RS migration.
okay, then we should just fix that.
Yeah, let me find the issue. So lucky, like I believe even if you get the key to work, you won't be able to have ECR work with Ratify.
With cosine.
With
You should be-
cosine.
You should be able to do notation because I know Jimmy was talking about that.
Yep.
Mm.
Yes, let me pull up the issue.
Is there actually an end-to-end doc? Like, I'm less worried about the AWS bits because I can feel like I can get the Kubernetes foo working. It's getting Ratify to start with the right data that I'm like trying to get through. And yeah, is there a doc? Basically, I just want to run the end-to-end on a cosine validation using Ratify is essentially what I'm trying to do.
I see. So I believe the ECR doc also works with ACR.
Okay.
So you can follow the walkthrough. Just replace.
Okay. Is that
ECR.
the doc that I was looking at?
Wouldn't
Yeah. Okay.
the issue though that was introduced with the ORAS change be a universal cosine blocking error, or was it really just cosine with ECR?
My memory, let me pull up the issue to see if there's any details. So this is what we have on file. Cosine verification flow doesn't work with changes to Aura store. Fix must catch the 404 returned by ECR when referrers API is queried. So I believe there's a difference in behavior when you try to get the cosine artifact from ACR versus ECR. So it's a different code path that we follow. So for ECR, we need to catch the not found error and try something else. And during the migration, we deleted that code and we didn't add it back. So that's what happened.
I guess if we can get it working with ACR, then, or if we don't, it would probably be worth updating this issue to reflect, like if it is a total cosine thing. I'm hoping that it's everyone is, but
yeah, I believe ACR still works.
Okay. I'm just even regardless of the backend registry, I can't even get Ratify to start, which is stuck on the data that I'm feeding into it. Has anybody, like, I don't know if Kara or Noel's hit this or anybody else on the call, because I know you've been playing with this.
Honestly, cosine is, we've purposely excluded it from our CSE scenario.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not, I've only been testing with notation.
I'm just having a look at what are we
yeah, so line 63 is where we grab the secret name, and in that secret we're looking for cosine.pub.
Oh, I see. Like it's a different file you're looking at, Lucky?
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at the one that you're showing on the screen. It gets
Oh.
it gets mounted into line 35 and 36
Got it.
var local ratify certs, which is where the error's coming out. It's basically saying this cosine.pub is not a valid certificate. Ratify is saying that. I linked in the chat. I looked at the code as well. You know, the code we're hitting. It looks like it's trying to look for a certificate, and I'm passing in a public key, which may therein lie the problem.
I see. But you followed the walkthrough, right? Like did the
Yeah,
walkthrough was the walkthrough to pass in the key or the cert?
to pass in the key, the public key that's generated when I run a cosine generate keys. And I'm not sure if that public key, it doesn't look like it's wrapped in a certificate. It looks like it's just in a public key.
Got it. Eric wrote the original doc. I can reach out to him because I just ran into him. Like he was just next door to me. I said
Okay.
hi before I came to this meeting. So I'll reach out to Eric, and also I will try to follow through the doc and see if I can reproduce it. Like I'm sure I might run into the same thing, but I'll look for workaround,
yeah.
because I remember following the same walkthrough with ACR and got it working at some point.
Okay. Yeah, I have a test bench set up, so I can give you access if you want to take a look at what I've got. Okay.
Yeah, I'll try it out with
Thanks.
ACR. I don't think the steps are very different. It's just about setting the registry up, and then they should.
Yeah.
The cosine steps should be the same.
The same.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, are you blocked on anything? Do you want us to fix it quickly?
No, it's just I didn't know whether I was you know, if it was a bash foo thing like Noel's put in the chat.
Yeah, it was just
And
typing away
maybe
at
have
it.
a show.
And I can see the new lines getting stripped sometimes and not others. But if you remove the variable call and just try that inline, we can go back and figure out that might give you unlocked for now, and we can either update the docs with that or get the right bash syntax, or it may be written somebody that had Z shell instead of bash, and there might be a
somebody's
variation
in a
there,
different
right?
shell. I think
Like
so.
on Mac, that very well might behave differently with Z shell by default than bash, which is dev container code space, you name it. So
right. And dollar inside quotes always, you know, gets my hackles up. I'm like, are we interpolating things? Is a special characters get interpolated because in the public key there's // space and everything that could be right for interpolation or not. Or is it literal values, which, you know, depending on your shell, I'm pretty sure double quotations is always literal. But yeah, I'm not an expert on every shell and how it interpolates every piece of thing that you throw at it.
Just another idea, like if we just run it locally, so Lucky, if you just run Ratify as the binary, and in the configuration file, you can say, this is the cosine verifier, and here is the key. You can quickly test if we're actually looking for the key or the cert.
Okay.
So I think we have a walkthrough on like Ratify CLI.
Okay, I will see if I can dig it up.
Yep. Let me have a quick look. So we only have 2 docs. I think there's some sample CLI command on Ratify, verify here. So this is an example of like how to set up a local Ratify config file. So the cosine verifier would be similar to the notary verifier, and you'll just specify the path to the key. And you will then call Ratify through command line instead of it running in a pod.
Got it.
Yeah, so Just
That's
another thing
helpful.
to
Thank
try.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, that's everything we have on the agenda. Anything else? Anyone? Sajay, Kara, any other topics you would like to cover?
I just wanted to invite Toddy into the call as well. Hello.
Oh,
Hey, sorry, I'm not muted. I've been clicking. Is that
yes.
correct? I don't know why Zoom does not mute you automatically. I always forget that one, but hey, everyone.
Hi, Toddy. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Do you have any discussion items, or you just swinging by to say hi?
I am just here to listen in what's happening.
Just wanted to ask a question here because Eric just responded about the cosine thing, and it's a broader question, but I think we should discuss it, like whether we fix it up, continue support, and validate it. That's something we haven't discussed yet. Or what's the story going forward as well. So I think maybe just having an issue to discuss this from a phasing standpoint of how much maybe we need to add end-to-end testing if they're going to support it. Just let's do the right things is kind of what Eric was asking.
Yep, I can create a discussion or a issue. Which one do you prefer?
Let's kind of keep it as a discussion first, and then if there is enough input, we can decide what to do.
Okay. Yep.
My recommendation, unless somebody has.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's fine. If I had to guess, I think that's a valuable use case to document, and having that end to end, because outside of a key verno, I don't see too many utilities out there that allow you to do a verification that you can pull into Kubernetes. So I think that that's a valuable use case, and hopefully things like cosine are getting a lot more mature, so the breaking changes in the libraries hopefully should be not changing as much.
I know this has been on the radar or brought up before, but it also, if we're going to prioritize this, it may be worth taking the time to split it out from ORAS so that it has its own path, because that would also decrease the likelihood of, especially with the introduction of OCI artifacts, which will change a lot of ORAS again, or theoretically could, if the spec's different, just continue to decrease the likelihood of introducing breaking changes.
Yep, we've Akash and I have discussed this before, and along the same lines, like we should, instead of having it like a glued on piece, we should move it to its own store. Yep, definitely agreeing there. Okay, I guess we have 10 minutes left, and yeah, nothing else before we wrap up? Cool, then thank you for joining, everyone. Have a good week, and Lucky, I will follow up with you offline on the signature. Oh, I guess we have the thread on Ratify channel to discuss. And no, I will update you on the whether we should delete the 1.1 point or release. Yep,
Yeah,
so I'll
okay.
follow up on those items. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.